Hey, what's up, you guys? Today I'm going to show you how to do some 6-color shading using a variety of colored pencils. Today I'm using mostly Prismacolor pencils, although you'll notice that my yellow pencil doesn't match my set, and that's because I lost my yellow pencil. So this is actually a watercolor pencil that I'm using because it's what I have on hand. The 6 colors that I'm using red, blue, yellow, violet, green, and white. Now, these are the colors that I sent home at the supply pickup last week, and it's just a limited color palette. But the nice thing is, with 6-color shading, is you can really create a huge range of colors with these, and that's the chromatic shading that we've been working on. So the reason I included this worksheet, I know it looks like a coloring sheet, but this is really a way for you to test out doing some different types of shading on an actual image, because as nice as a value scale is, all it is really, rectangles. There's not a whole lot of challenge to it. So with this design, you have a lot more organic shapes and interesting spaces and patterns and things that you can kind of mess around with. So I decided to start with this snake in the image. And this is kind of a traditional Americana style tattoo. This would be very typical early American tattoo that you might see on someone like a sailor. So I'm working on this snake and I'm trying to create a base layer of green, and in areas where I want it to be darker, I think I've layered in some of my blue and purple. Right here you see me working on, I guess it's like the belly of the snake, and I decided I wanted to create some contrast there, which is why I added red. I want to have a little bit of like an indication of a light source, so I didn't shade the entire thing. Part of it is white, so like you'll see each scale has a little white piece, and then I went in and added a shadow with purple. So yeah, this actually, it takes quite a while. I sped this up so it's like 4 times faster than how I was really doing it, which means that when I was coloring this in, it took me about 45 minutes. So, it's going to take you a little bit of time, but that's all right. Here I'm trying to create the illusion of a shadow because I'm noticing that that area of the snake is underneath him. He's like coiling his body. So I'm trying to create a shadow by using blue. But feel free to, do this activity while you're watching a movie or some YouTube videos. That's what I was doing. I was listening to a podcast while I was doing this, because otherwise it can get a little bit tedious. But like I said, this is a good way for you to experiment and test out your colors. You'll notice that I have my value scale sitting right next to it, and that's because I couldn't remember how to create some of the colors, so I would look at my value scale to check it out. And if you haven't already looked at our value scale video, you can go ahead and watch that, and you can see how I actually made a modified version of it using those 6 colors, because the value scale worksheet, it actually requires a lot of colors, but you can just use the concept and then you don't need as many. But if you have a lot of colored pencils, then great. One thing I noticed with using colored pencils is they dull really quickly, so you do have to sharpen them. I find it really frustrating to sharpen them with a hand sharpener, but I know that's probably what many of you have, and I think some of you might even be lucky to have that. I do have an electric sharpener at home, so I do try to use that when I can, just because I feel like colored pencils, they break super easily. Here I am moving on to the eagle, and the eagle is flippin' huge. It took me a long time, but you'll notice in my 6-color shading, I didn't include brown. So that means we're gonna have to create a brown. The way I did this on this first row of his feathers is I started with a really light layer of the violet, and then I used red and then blue. I think I threw some yellow in there too, but obviously you're watching maybe a little bit closer than me. I'm doing the same thing where I'm trying to show a light source, so I'm not coloring in the entire feather. I'm leaving the section on the left kind of white colored. That's going to allow it to look like it has a highlight and a shadow, so that tip of the feather is going to be darker. I wish I really could color this fast. That would be incredible. While I was making this, I sometimes like to check and see what's for sale on like Craigslist, and I saw that there was free baby chickens. So I'm really trying to trying to think about whether or not that would be a great decision for me. It'd be so fun though with Easter coming up just I think next week. It'd be so fun to have baby chicks. And also it's like a great time to raise a pet right now because we're all just at home alone. So I feel like it'd be so fun to have baby chickens. But at the same time, I also feel like it's a lot of responsibility because then if you want to go on vacation, somebody needs to take care of your chicks. So hit me up if you're trying to take care of some baby chickens that actually I haven't committed to, but I am seriously considering. I have heard that like things like this, what I'm drawing, like an eagle or a hawk, they might try to eat your chickens, so that kind of freaks me out. I think I would cry if they stole my baby chicks. So yeah, I don't really have too much more wisdom other than that. I think just experiment by layering your colors. Obviously, yours doesn't have to look like mine. I just tried to do like a realistic colored eagle and snake, but you could make yours like some crazy technicolor trippy rainbow, bird and snake fighting. That could totally exist. Or maybe you'll have to do that because maybe you only have a few colors. So just experiment, try to create depth in your color. The real goal here is not to have it just be like flat. You really are trying to get a range of value because when you think about a tattoo, a lot of the time there's going to be that nice range of value if you have a good tattoo artist. Sometimes it'll almost look like it's airbrushed, and that's kind of a signature part of this tattoo style. You don't want it to just be super flat. So even though this looks like a coloring page, don't think of it as a coloring page. I was feeling pretty proud of my eagle wing right there. I feel like it is kind of amazing how brown that looks without having used a brown colored pencil at all. I guess a few other things we could chat about. Looking at this design, what is really good about it is it's actually three overlapping symbols. So we have the snake, of course, we have the eagle, and then I believe in the background there's a large circle. I'm not really sure if this is supposed to be the sun or what, but that's going to be something that you're going to be thinking about for the tattoo design that you make. I want you to think about three symbols that have personal significance to you. And you're going to find ways to overlap those or combine those to create a dynamic composition. So it can't just be one symbol. You're going to be taking a variety of images and kind of combining them together. Now, obviously, two of these symbols, the eagle and the snake, they're a lot more detailed and complicated than like that circle that's behind, but you can think about that too. Like not all of your symbols have to be, crazy intense. Some of them you can kind of play with like shape and line. And you can just think about them as personal symbols. It doesn't have to be symbols that everyone can understand. It can just be personal to you. So you would know what it symbolizes, but maybe not necessarily everyone who looked at your tattoo would know. And I think most people who have tattoos, it's kind of like that. They're pretty personal, and a lot of people will ask, "Oh, like what is your tattoo about?" Because you kind of want to know that story. It's intriguing to see what people decide to have tattooed on their body. I don't have any tattoos right now. I think my mom would freak out. But also, I just feel like I've never been. I don't know. I have a hard time like committing to a certain style or artwork. I like to like change things up in my house and on my walls a lot, so I think I would have a hard time permanently tattooing something on my body. Although if I was gonna get one thing, I have always thought it would be cool to like have a color wheel. I'd like to have a color wheel on the inside of my wrist because I feel like that would be so useful in art class. I could like check your guys' color mixing and just bust out my own color wheel on my arm. Either that or I thought I'd like to have a sewing machine because one of my very first jobs I was a seamstress. Um, and it's just a lifelong hobby and passion of mine. So I think it'd be cool to have like a vintage Singer sewing machine. And these are things that, I should really probably think about a little bit because I'll have to be designing an example tattoo for this assignment to show you guys. So I'll kind of think about some symbols that I want. Maybe I can find a way to combine the idea of a color wheel with a sewing machine. Maybe it could have different spools of thread that are the primary and secondary colors. I feel like, that there could be something there. Or also I could just go a totally different direction if I wanted. Lots of possibilities within this assignment. And you can choose the style of tattoo. So this is called like an Americana, or sometimes this is called like a Sailor Jerry tattoo. So if that's not your style, there's so many different kinds of tattoos. There's more modern tattoos, there's Japanese tattoos, Celtic tattoos, tribal tattoos. There's all kinds, and you'll have a chance to kind of research and look into those a bit further and see what kind appeals to you, because I think that's going to allow you a lot of creativity and a lot of different options. So here I'm just kind of going back in, I'm adding a lot of shadow to my snake. Anywhere where I see that it's underneath the eagle, I'm trying to add blue so it looks like it's a little darker. I'm just adding some detail to his belly and to the edge of his tail feathers. I gotta say my hand was pretty tired at this point, so it's not my neatest work. You can definitely tell that I've gone outside the lines. We didn't really talk about, if you don't have a printer, you could take a stab at drawing this yourself. I know that it might be a little bit intimidating, but also, it is a drawing class, so it's good for you to practice those drawing skills. If you're really freaked out by that, you could probably put a piece of paper over your laptop and trace. Or, fun little thing, you could just draw a different tattoo design. If you look up tattoo sketches, tattoo design, tattoo coloring sheet, you'll find all kinds of different examples that you can copy, or you can make your own. Keeping in mind we are going to design our own, so think of this as a practice version. Don't go super crazy and design the whole thing, because there are going to be more requirements that we'll talk about as we get a little bit further into the lesson. So I'm getting really close. I'm just adding some of my dark blue. That's really gonna bring in some shadow, adding yellow to really lighten up the snake in some areas and also in the eagle's head. I really dig that blue, and there we have it. Pretty nifty.